Hi folks, welcome back to Collusion Confidential. I'm Fran Santiago Avila, Science and Advocacy Director for Washington Wildlife First. Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife Director Kelly Suswin had his own reasons for launching a retaliatory investigation into his biggest critics last year. The move offered him the opportunity to discredit, bully, and silence pro-wildlife voices, while also neutralizing opposition in the only body empowered to fire him. But it is hard to imagine Suswin would have had the nerve to attempt such an audacious power play if his allies in the hunting rights community had not softened the ground for him. To understand how we got here, we then need to go back to the Commission's decision to end spring bear hunting. Spring is a vulnerable time for wild animals, as they recover from winter and raise their young. For that reason, Washington gives most hunted species a break from human pursuit in the spring, with turkeys the only current exception. But until 2021, the state also allowed spring hunts for black bears. This meant that Washington's bears had to run from hunters every month they were not in hibernation except July, including the moment they emerged starving from their dens. Although hunters also killed between 17 and 2,200 black bears during the fall hunting season, the spring hunt was especially cruel because it targeted bears at their most vulnerable and inevitably orphaned nursing cubs. Occasionally, these orphans were rescued and raised by wildlife rehabbers, like these two, whom department staff found after hunters killed their mother. But most often, they were left behind to die from exposure, predation, or starvation. For these reasons, the spring bear hunt has long been deeply unpopular. In 2019, a nationwide poll conducted for wildlife agencies found that 64% of the public opposed spring bear hunting, with only 15% in support. And although Washington was one of only 8 states that still allowed the hunt, the numbers here were even worse, with a 2022 poll finding that 80% of Washingtonians opposed the hunt and only 8% supported it. That opposition did not just come from Seattle apartment dwellers. 77% of people on the state's eastern side opposed the hunt, and even in hunting households, 69% thought it should be discontinued. But a small group remained fiercely committed to spring bear hunting, Director Suswin among them. In a personal plea to the Commission to preserve the hunt in 2022, he explained why it was outrageous to expect hunters to wait a few more weeks to kill bears until the fall season opened in August.
Spring hunting is very different. It's limited. There are less people out there. It's a different time of the year. It's a different approach. West side, you're coming out from the water. There's something green besides moss growing. East side, you got the snow receding. It's an entirely different hunt. My first game animal was a spring bear 51 years ago. That it's a very different experience. Now, do you want to provide that experience? That's a different question for the Commission. That is your question. But don't say my opportunity in the fall replaces my opportunity in the spring. It does not. A separate question on whether the Commission wants to provide both, that's legit. But don't tell me that it's the same thing and I kill a bear in the fall, it's the same as killing a bear in the spring. It's just not.
Despite growing unpopularity, the hunt continued for decades, based on support from agency leadership and the false claim that it was necessary to address emerging management needs, including mitigating the damage hungry bears can do to commercial timber and alleviating human-bear conflicts. Then, in 2020, a retired school teacher decided to dig into these management justifications. She discovered they were historical relics, based on situations that no longer existed and on assumptions undermined by current science. She shared her findings with the department and the Commission, and in a testament to the difference one person can make, slowly started to move the needle. In 2020, 13 people turned up at the Commission meeting to testify about the renewal of the hunt, with 12 speaking in opposition. Only one commissioner voted to end the hunt that year. That picture changed in 2021. The public showed up in force, with more than 100 people lined up to testify, almost all of them opposed to the hunt. Although agency leadership had begged hunters to attend the meeting to defend the hunt, they failed to show up. Other individuals and organizations swamped the commission with letters explaining that the hunt was both unethical and unnecessary. This time, more commissioners not only listened, they also did their research into the issue and asked management some tough questions. In November 2021, an 8-member commission declined to approve the hunt by a vote of 4-4. Suswin was enraged by that vote, promising bear hunters he would focus the agency's energy on reviving the hunt, and promising to instruct staff to work their butts off to convince commissioners to bring it back. But despite all this effort, leadership was ultimately unable to refute the retired school teacher's research or provide satisfactory answers to the commission's questions. Eventually, they had to admit that the hunt's so-called management purposes were little more than a smokescreen for a recreational opportunity. Following the resignation of one commissioner and the appointment of 2 others, the commission took a final vote on the issue in November 2022, deciding by a margin of 5-4 that Washington would no longer allow recreational spring bear hunts. The commissioners who voted against the hunt have been paying for that vote ever since. In our next episode, we will discuss how national hunting rights organizations leveraged this vote to inflame their supporters by telling them the commission was secretly trying to end all hunting in Washington and inventing conspiracy theories to cast certain commissioners as villains. Until then, keep up the fight to protect wildlife. And yes, keep colluding.